I'll be honest, I really did not think that we would get the climax of Act 1 in this same season. My original thought process was that the team would end the season on the heels of the battle to set up Season 2. However, from this week's episode of Mission Yozakura Family, it's become clear that our major battle will be coming as the final preparations are underway. Content coverage wise, chapters 61, 62, 63, 64, and 65 were adapted. The episode starts out with adapting the second half of chapter 65 while cutting the first half out. Additionally, going into chapter 61, there were some additions and cuts as well, from grandparents content to the plan from Ren getting more elaboration. This was a weird amount of content adapted, but looking at what is on the horizon and the remaining episode count, I understand the need to get through it. As for the actual episode, we started out with our antagonist side this week and getting the rest of the introductions to the Tampopo. There were a heap of VA announcements over the weekend, and I'm sure some of them are familiar. Plenty of matchups to come in the future, as the mentioning of the seed sowing project ramps up the anticipation. As for powers and such, you'll just have to wait and see. Pulling into chapter 61, we get some slight additions as Ren breaks down the entire situation to the Yozakura family. With the data collected from Shirai's earrings comes the location at last of the Tampopo. A joint effort between the Hinagiku and the Yozakura family would take place a week from this meeting, leading to codename Frontlines. Fun fact, but had this season actually ended on this preparation episode, the title for the video would have been Till We Meet Again on the Front Lines in anticipation for season 2. Now during this time, the most important thing to do is sharpen all skills, as walking in through the front door is not likely to happen for the Yozakuras, and so everybody gets busy in their respective fields. Shinzo making weapons, Shion aiding in the research, Nanao working on the ways to revert the damage caused by the Hazakura, etc, etc. Now I can't gloss over this because of how it's presented, but in the episode, we also got introduced to a character named Hatoda, who is the president of the Popo Pipo company. If we go way back to Ayaka's introduction, the bounty she was holding also had the same company signature on the poster. This ties directly into early cut content that was the first major conflict Taiyo had regarding Mutsumi, as Hatoda was the cause of all of it. While he does not appear much again for the rest of the series, I do recommend going back to read early Yozakura Family to see what really happened. Somewhat of a shame this is how it turned out, but we knew choices like this were options regarding the adaptation. As we move into Taiyo's POV, his evolution has a bit of a wall. We saw just last week how he can still lose control of himself under high emotions, and so a proper teacher is needed, and who else better than good old grandpa. Bon and Keiko also make a return this week, given the upcoming conflict is a family affair. Their reappearance gave us a lot this week, from the lore to the laughs, but with Bon, his presence gave Taiyo a lot of information he needed. As dear old dad has stepped away from the family, he's got to prepare Taiyo for what's to come, and so we go back to the basics with endurance training. What Momo did to Taiyo back at the hotel was summoning control at its peak, and if he wants to stand on similar footing, he's gonna need to get used to it. Of course, it's not easy, but as always for Mutsumi's sake, he stands firm with Yae in hand. The anime did change it to where the time frame is 1 week while the manga gives it 2 weeks, and it adds urgency as to why Taiyo must improve in such a short amount of time. Thankfully, when it comes to this type of training, the gears can be switched up, as Bond mentions that perhaps focusing on a full awakening might be better, in which we finally get to see what is known as a full blooming. 2 cherry blossoms within the eye's iris, representing how the body can bloom to its ultimate limit due to the Somenin. It's a trump card that can only be given to 1 person per head's lifetime, and once again proves that despite all the connections, Taiyo is somebody who came into this role just like Bond did. On top of this, a certain type of power can manifest based on certain skills or traits of a person. Everyone's abilities are well known by now, and Bond's being jailbreaking allowed his skill to evolve further, being able to pass through gaps that should be physically impossible. There is also a way to apply that very power into objects, as showcased by the endless magic bullet, and with all this information, we now have a solid power system elaborated upon. Bloomings, their powers, and their applications based on unique styles. Expect some shorts in the future talking about each family's blooming, but I won't spoil them until the anime debuts them first. Now Taiyo still needs to identify what his may be, and to get to that point, the two have to dance their way to a power-up. No fusion dance, but close enough. Think more Demon Slayer curse mark influence. Being in the presence of a blooming will slowly elevate someone's half-blooming, and bit by bit, we see the second iris begin to light up within Taiyo. However, progress is nothing without concrete results, and to turn this situation all the way up to 100, Bon amps up the risk, pointing the gun at Mutsumi and pretty much signaling Taiyo to do his one and only job, that's to protect the head. What came from it was another one of Taiyo's badass moments, with his second iris now in full bloom and his ability to be known as hardening. His kindness and intensity when it comes to protecting Mutsumi makes him having a defensive ability quite useful, and from here, it'll be about incorporating that ability offensively as well. There's a lot of potential for this down the line, and with the moment being back-to-back spreads, I did enjoy seeing it on the screen. Another solid job done. Now Taiyo does get a little pissed off here, as there should never be a time where putting Mutsumi in danger should be an option, but little does he know it's all part of the plan. A plan that caused him to lose his grip for majority of chapter 64. The comedy here was well done, and this also gave room for the women of the family to have a little bit of a chat regarding a worst case scenario. While getting the power system breakdown, we also got a little bit of lore as well within the introduction of the Book of Buds, a record of all the events of the Yozakura family's history back to its origin that till this day cannot be unlocked. Brute forcing it would end up self-destructing the mansion, and it proves that what is inside can never be brought to light. The contents here are too valuable, and Mutsumi's conviction is tested here again, as in the event she were to ever be alone, she would have to let it all go, potentially including her own life. Once more, she passes this test as the importance of the head of the family continues to prove its significance while building onto Mutsumi's character. Both her and Taiyo wear their conviction on their sleeve, and these moments only bond them together more as the episode ends with a twisted smile from Kawashita as the final battle draws near. A lot of content this week giving us the foundation for the power system and putting the situation into full throttle. As Operation Frontlines is about to kick off, I really hope that the Yozakura team can bring it. This is a major point in the story, and is arguably one of the most underrated arcs within Weekly Shonen Jump, and I'd hope for it to be met with some ambition. Of course, only time will tell, and I will be holding my expectations as fairly as possible, but expect some more brutal honesty to come from me in the following weeks. At this point, this season should end in the middle of Volume 10, and within it, a very solid stopping point as we await the future. The final 6 episodes are upon us, and so expect this ride to be very action heavy as we near the end of Season 1. With that, it's gonna bring me to the end of this week's review. As always, thank you very much for watching, and make sure to leave all your thoughts about the episode in the comment section down below. Be safe out there until next Sunday for episode 22.